The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew.
Glory to you, Lord.
When the Pharisees heard that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees, they gathered together, and one of them, a scholar of the law, tested him by asking, "Teacher, which commandment in the law is the greatest?" He said to him, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest and the first commandment. The second is just like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. The whole law and the prophets depend on these two commandments." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
In a special way, I would like to welcome the Giles family here. Calvin and Ashley and their relatives are sitting in this front pew here. The reason they're here and we have this table is because we're gonna, as a church family, celebrate their child coming into the church through baptism. There was a bishop, and he had hundreds and hundreds of people he was preaching to. And his mother had an infant that was crying. So the mother was right in front of him. So she took her infant who was crying, and she started to walk out of the room. And the bishop said to this mother, "Please don't leave. Your baby is not bothering me." And she turned to the bishop, she said, "I know, but you're bothering the baby." Well, when our Lord was preaching in the mountain, on the plains, I bet there were hundreds of children running around in every different direction. Because that's what children do, right? So God always calls us to welcome every family that brings their children to church. We don't discourage them or complain about them. We encourage them, right? We want to see them here. We want to welcome them. What family doesn't have, not only a mother and a father, but also children? And even if some parents are not able to conceive, they can always adopt children. So it brings a great joy for our Lord and for us to see this baby come into the church, receive the grace of baptism. Such a powerful grace. And we have, and I welcome all of our confirmation kids and their parents are here, who also are here to help us to have a share in their joy for their children being confirmed. How about you? When we listen to our Lord in the gospel, he tells us that we have to love God with our whole being. When you talk about the heart in the Old Testament, whenever you said heart, that meant the center of someone's being. It was something that's not separate, it's the center where all our thoughts are present, our consciousness, our consent to our actions. When God made Adam and Eve, God, who is infinite in love, he gave them the whole world to rule over as a king and a queen. They had the authority. Adam would name the animals. God wasn't a micromanager. He allowed Adam to name the animals. He wanted them to fully be able to experience his love. He held nothing back. It was a perfect self-offering. But then we see that one tree, the knowledge of good and evil. You may think to yourself, you know what? Why did God let that tree be in the center? Why not just remove the tree? Therefore, they could never break his commandment. There was only one commandment, only one. The reason why God gave them that one commandment was because he wanted them to freely, on their own, reveal their love for him. It was the only way, that one obedience to that commandment, it proved and revealed their love for him. That was the only way that they could do this, because they were always receiving. But God doesn't call us just to receive, but he calls us to give. We are not parasites. We are human beings made in the image and likeness of God. We reflect his love. He calls us to love him perfectly. When we talk about our neighbor, we love our neighbor as ourselves. Not more than ourselves, as ourselves. Why? Because God reveals to us that each and every one of us deserves to be loved. But we are not God. We can't have a love that is infinite. It has limits when we love each other. But when we love God, it has to be limitless. Because his grace and mercy is limitless. His mercy is limitless. So the beauty of the family, such important. Satan hates the family. He wants the family to fall apart. He doesn't want the family to be healthy, to be centered on Christ. His dream is to disrupt the family. God is one who brings unity. The devil brings division. But the Lord our God gives us hope and encouragement. Because he reveals to us, we become reconciled to him through the sacraments. The first sacrament being baptism. When a child is baptized, they are cleansed from original sin. And they become Jesus. You'll have a baby Jesus in your arms after baptism. Everything you do for your son, you do for the Lord. Everything we do for each other, we do for the Lord. Because of that consecration from baptism. We belong to Christ and Christ belongs to us. So when we're called to love as a disciple of Christ, it has to reflect his love, which is so hard for us to do. When someone wrongs us, when someone wounds us, when someone betrays us, our trust, we react where we want to hurt them. We want to respond by attacking back. That's our response, right? When someone does something, we're driving and someone cuts us off, or we'll get angry, we'll be impatient, and maybe we'll say things we regret, right? That's kind of like our weakness. But when God gives us his grace, it overshadows our weakness. Our weakness is not an obstacle, it's a blessing. Why is it a blessing? Because it makes us realize I don't depend on myself for salvation. I depend on God. God can do anything. There's nothing that God cannot do. So he calls us to love in a radical way that is Christ-like. When we love each other as Christ loves us, the world sees us and say, what is that? How is these people so joyful? Why do they have so much joy? Why are they so filled with love? They think to themselves, I want that. I want to have that relationship with Christ because I see the joy, the love radiating from each and every one of us. The Lord said, this is how he will be known, by us loving each other. That will be the sign. That's the miracle. That's the sign that draws others to encounter Christ, or draws others to receive the graces of baptism. But once we receive baptism, it's not over. We still have to continue to walk with faith. So whenever you have a child that's being baptized, when your child is going to be baptized, Calvin and Ashley, he's going to want to know, who is Jesus? Who is he? He's going to want to know, what was his mission? What has he done for me? When we don't catechize our children in the Catholic faith, when we don't encourage them, support them, give them that good witness, that seed of faith does not mature and bear fruit. It dies. It withers and dies. So we have a great responsibility. They say it takes, a village to raise a child. It's like an old African proverb. It takes a village. We can say that in the sense that the church, we celebrate the baptism within this Mass. Because each and every one of you are called to support this family in the faith with your prayers and your encouragement. There's so many temptations out there, and so many young people want to have that stability. They want to have that rock. They want to have that foundation because they realize that that's what brings about peace. And that foundation is Christ, our Lord alone. That when we seek Christ, we don't put limits on how we encounter him. We seek him everywhere and anywhere. Because the Lord is not limited in revealing his presence to us. So we're called to receive the blessing and be the blessing. So I ask you, brothers and sisters of Christ, to keep this family in prayers, to keep all of our children who are receiving confirmation on November the 7th at the Cathedral Basilica. There's some pastors that have raised their concern about their safety of receiving confirmation at the Basilica because it being downtown and after election. So I ask you in a special way to pray for the safety of all of our parents and our children as we go for them to receive that sacrament of confirmation.